welcome back to the second part of our series on Windows 8.1 and the new user interface. What are we going to talk about this time?
I think probably a good place to start is navigation. Now, we know that when people first see that start screen and it's so different from the start button that they're used to, the first thing they think about is, well, how do I move around in this environment?
Right.
And that's probably the first thing that we should talk about is how do you get around in Windows 8 and 8.1. And by the way, we say 8 and 8.1. There are a few refinements to navigation in 8.1, but all up, it's kind of this Windows 8 interface experience that's different from previous versions. So
right.
We may slip and use them interchangeably.
We talked about in the first session about how some people kind of put off on the changes because people don't like change. But I think you'll find that when we go through this, you really enjoy some of it. Like I'm looking at the interface here. You see it behind us up on the wall. And some of the cool things that we have, different sized icons. Whoops, didn't mean to show you that. Different sized icons. I got group names here. Show me some of the cool things that Windows 8.1 has added.
Well, really, it's tough. I hate to separate 8.1 and 8 because a lot of people maybe look at this and are not familiar.
We're talking 8.1.
Okay, so we are. Okay. So yeah, in lieu of a start button with that traditional pop-up menu, we've gone to this start screen where we see here groups, we see tiles. These are now called tiles. They're no longer icons. And they're tiles because some of them are actually live tiles, which means they pull information and data from your system or from the web, and they push them out to you within the confines of that square.
Exactly. I just slid over here. I've got this news section with weather. I've got the stocks going right now. I've got some news items.
So
these are flipping.
Here and stocks and so I
like
see
the picture of the lady slapping her forehead, going, "I should have sold."
Exactly. So these are new types, and we'll get into this later. These are apps, so they're a new type of.
I love these things, but I've heard from people as we travel around. Some people say they think it's a distraction. I don't. I find it's awesome. But can you turn these off?
Oh, you absolutely can turn it off. In fact, you can go in and customize and select one of these and select turn tile off. And immediately it will drop to. It's not as interesting, but there you go. You do have that.
So real quick, couple of touches, and boom, you've turned it on.
Yeah, and while we're there, let's talk about that. And for the record, I probably did this when I should have showed you. You can actually right-click somewhere in the blue field, or if you do have a touch device, you can swipe up from the bottom here, and you get the Customize menu. Then you're able to do all sorts of things, like for instance, select this tile. Now I know you do enjoy following the weather, so I'll go ahead and turn that back on for you.
Please turn that back on. I love that.
The other thing I can do, though, if I can go back and select this, is change sizes, right?
Right.
So when you go in and you have a choice now, and of some cases, not all of them will have 4 size choices, but this one, in fact, does.
And that kind of threw me at first because in previous version, in 8.0, you had 2 sizes, right?
Yep.
Now they've gone to 4, but I realized that it's not every single app that shows 4 sizes. And at first I couldn't understand why. Let me I'll click out of here just for a second to show you. If you go back here, for example, the way we have this set up, I have here is Excel and Word. Well, those aren't live tiles, right? Mm-hmm. They're just launch icons. Not icons, tiles, but
yeah.
All I'm using that for is to launch the program. So why would you want that to be a super huge size? And if I click on this, for example, I'm holding over Word, and I say resize, it does give me all 4. Thought it would only
Let's
give
go
me 2.
large.
Large.
But large for that is different than large for the.
Exactly. Where over here, when I clicked on one of these, you can see large here is much, much larger.
Yeah.
And then if I click, I also might want it wide, which makes it width-wise the same, but shortens the height down. And all these are completely customizable, right?
Absolutely. So you can change the sizes, and that's important because people like to have a certain order to their desktop. Now, as much as some people really miss that start button, that was very hard to customize.
Yeah.
It was very hard to organize your icons into folders and whatnot in a way that you wanted to have them, and this is actually a lot easier, and part of that is being able to shape these icons. Some people really care about having perfect rectangles under every grouping, so you can do this to help make the geometry fit if you'd like.
The other thing I liked that we didn't have under 8.0 was these group names, right? So how do I customize a group name in this case?
So you actually can customize a group name here. If we go to, if we go over here, and I'm using my thumb, so I'm not all that accurate, but see, I can pop in there, I can type in whatever I want.
So I could call this Mike's News, for example.
That's true. And actually, groupings were a feature in 8.0. They've just become easier to customize in 8.1.
Okay, cool.
So that's definitely, and so hopefully people will use them more. But yeah, so you have that ability to change the tiles. You can turn them on and off. You also have the opportunity to pin or remove things from your applications into the start screen, or basically,
How would I do that? I want to take this this finance app and I want to pin it.
Well, it's pinned now, or we can show, if I click on this, if you look right here where it says unpin from start, I can select that and it goes away. Now, the question is, how do you get that back?
We're screwed.
Well, no, we're not.
We throw it away and we buy a new device.
Yes, that's exactly how if you unpin a device or unpin an app, you got to buy a new device. So, another thing that's been added in 8.1 from 8.0 is the ability to get to all of your apps. Now, in 8.0, you had to bring up a menu, select all apps button, etc. But with this, if you have a mouse, you actually see this little arrow circle appear. Or if you have a touch screen, you just simply move the screen up, and there's all of your apps. Okay.
Nice.
Now you can go in and let's customize this. And I'll go ahead and select finance and say, you know what, I decide I do want that back on the screen, so I'll pin it there. Now it does stick at the tail end, so you'll have to move it across. But you can absolutely do that.
I just simply hold, grab it, and I can drag it wherever I want it. So
absolutely.
I put it back where I had it before, which is right here.
Yes.
And that easy, that quick, I just customize my whole screen.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've removed, we've added, we've pinned, etc.
You know what? The one thing that we haven't mentioned, though, in the previous version, in 8.0, it tried to put every application or app that I had up on that start menu or start screen, and it was a wash. Like, I have Visual Studio, and there's like 27 different little mini apps.
Files and all that stuff.
And they're all over the place. But here, it's much, much cleaner. It doesn't try to do that. How does it decide which apps to put on and which apps not to?
Well, basically, it's kind of been an all-or-nothing approach. So pretty much, if you install apps from now on, it's up to you to customize that start screen.
Right.
So that may be a point of concern if you're not familiar with how to do this, but we've just showed you that you can go down and add any one of these, and it will install it on that start screen.
So by default, it's just going to pick the typical, most common ones, and then I can customize as I want
Absolutely.
to. And what I also like, if I scroll up here, whoops, there we go. If I scroll up here, not only do I see my apps, but as I scroll left and right, you notice I have groupings of apps now, which I didn't have before. So a little more intelligence behind it. All my Office apps, for example, are all in one group. And
that's a very good deciding point, because we've podcasted, we talked about this, that there's a difference between apps and applications, and that's not trademark copyrighted terms. I'm just using apps in terms
of... They
of
are now.
Apps you get from the Microsoft Store, or the Windows Store, I should say.
Air quotes, apps.
Yes.
Brett and Mike.
Apps from the Windows Store that are installed on the system. And these are lightweight apps that live on that start screen, versus your applications that are more your traditional applications that you would load into Windows just as you have since forever ago. But basically, that's what all of these are. And we can look at this. Let's say, just pick one of your apps and launch one of those.
We already did that, so I'll do sports.
Okay, let's launch sports. And there you have it. That's a full page. You can see back here, it's a full page app that basically you would use as kind of it's more tablet-esque in that you don't see the minimize, maximize, and close.
So a lot of people get confused when there's no close.
Yeah.
Because if I scroll,
yeah.
This is beautiful. I see my scorecard. I see all the top stories, teams I'm following, headlines, scores, etc. But I can keep going forever. I'm never going to see that red X in that upper right.
You're right. You're right. And so, how would you exit out of that program?
I would throw it away and buy a whole new device.
Yes, because we're back to selling more devices, right? Exactly. Okay.
No. Obviously, I would use a touch interface, I would guess, to...
Well, yeah, you could actually drag down from the top, and if you drag it all the way down, you can close it out. Go ahead, I trust you.
So I'm pulling down here.
And there, you can slap that to the side if you want to show it kind of like on a...
But if I want to close it, I'm taking it all the way
down.
So I just go all the way to the bottom,
and it's gone. Absolutely.
Wow.
Now, in contrast, why don't you launch one of your Office apps?
Okay.
So take Excel, for instance, or Word, or whatever. And see, now we drop to the desktop.
Automatically.
And it launches just as a traditional application would always launch, as you well know. And in fact, You notice how we still have this similar desktop experience. We're down at the bottom here. You can see all of these pinned applications that you would launch as you would have traditionally in Windows 7 or previous.
All right, so make sure I got this right. An application, the full application, is a typical desktop app. I've got my minimize, my maximize, I've got my close button right here. It's typically more, I don't know if robust is the word, but extensive.
Standalone.
And we talk about this a little bit in our podcast as well. We get into some of the differences, so I encourage you, if you have a chance, to check that out. But really, from an app standpoint, an app is something that I'm going to get in, get my information real quick. I might be looking at my sports scores or the weather or whatever the case may be, and then I'm out. Whereas a full-blown application running in desktop mode, something I may spend the whole day in Excel, writing formulas and macros, things of that nature.
I think it's basically, you know, the particular tool for what you're doing at the particular time. I mean, Excel obviously is a heavy duty powerlifting productivity app, whereas the weather app may be something you're going in and you're checking, you know, the 5-day forecast or whatever, and then you're back to doing something
And the important
else.
point is on the modern UI, which I can hit the Windows key to go back to, it knows the difference, and when I launch it, if it's an application, it'll put me into desktop mode and run standard like I always have. If it's an app, I get that new user interface experience, and it just comes up.
So yeah, and that's kind of, that differentiates that, but there's still a little more to navigation. Like how do we bump around this interface? How do we, you know, the edges, the corners, and all that stuff? There's more to this than what we've shown. We need to show people how to get around in it.
Are we going to do that in this session, or are we doing that in the next one?
Why don't we do it in the next one? Because we'll be moving on to. We can do some of it here. We can do some.
Well, you
of it
already
next
showed a little bit of it.
Yeah.
So. All right, let's do it on the next one. But let's kind of recap what we've talked about so far. It's a new user interface, right? People have been standoffish because they don't like change. But the reality is the change is not that different. And more importantly, once you understand the concepts behind the change, everyone I talk to actually falls in love with it. They prefer it better. So I've got different sized icons, so I can customize it as I want to. Yeah. It's very easy to customize it. We talked about groups, like I have these different groups here. Well, what if I wanted to create my own group? How would I do that? Go back to that interface. So I want to, for example, take the control panel and I want to put it in a new group. Well, one of the things we haven't shown is, as I move this over, you notice when I get between two groups, do you see that vertical line back behind us?
Yeah.
That's telling me that I've now created a new group. It instantly allows me to put in a name. This is Brett.
I get my own group.
You get your own group. No, you don't, because I don't want you to have your own group. I'm going to grab that, and I just throw it right back, and as soon as I do, that group's gone.
I feel loved.
But very fast, very easy way of customizing the interface. So we talked about that. What else did we bring up?
Well, customization, we talked about the desktop, the fact that the desktop's still there. We talked about, what else have we talked about? We talked about the sizes. We talked about pinning and removing.
Between apps versus
the fact that you can jump back and get to these apps to do that. And a lot about the customization all up. So
a whole lot there. Hopefully you got a lot out of this. Stick around for our part 3, I guess, where we'll dive deeper into the UI. I bet you that in a very short time we could teach them everything they need to know about the 8.1 interface. And they'll probably be very surprised about how easy it is.
Oh, no doubt.
You want to accept that challenge?
Absolutely.
Come back for section 3. You'll see all about it.